Well, hello everyone, this is Angel Michael. Welcome to my channel. Today my topic is called Pushing Consumerism and Immorality. Recently I went to a local restaurant, met my parents for lunch the other day, and they were playing the television. The sound was off, they just had the closed caption feature on and the radio at the same time. And I noticed that they were playing the Wendy Williams show on the television. I cannot believe how repulsive this woman is. I don't normally make ugly comments about women's looks, or anyone's look for that matter, but this is how I took her TV performance. And yes, that's what it was. People who have talk shows and who are on television are performers. Everything they say and do is scripted. Anyway, Williams, and I looked it up online to see how old this woman is. She's 54 years old. She was dressed like a high school teenager. She looks like she takes Botox injections in her face. She just looked really, really weird. Her face looked stretched like she had had plastic surgery. Ever since that old, do you remember that old Star Trek movie called Insurrection from the late 90s? The whole idea of the story of the movie was that the people who lived on this planet lived a long life and still retained their youth and vitality. But if they left the planet, they aged quickly. Well, those who left, when they did leave, their faces became so stretched and just nasty looking. And they had to keep stretching it to keep it from sagging so bad. Well, that's how Williams looked, and it was really nasty. If you're showing age, I understand that people in this line of work are trying to look young, but come on guys, it's so obvious. Even before I looked up her age, I could tell she's getting some age on her. If you're over 40 and you're still trying to act and look like a teenager, you have problems. If you're an adult, please dress and look like an adult instead of a teenager. It is so disgusting and nasty to see a middle-aged woman, or a man for that matter, acting like an overgrown teeny bopper. She's wearing a very high miniskirt and a tank top like something you'd see a teenager wear. I couldn't take anything she said seriously after the first few minutes looking at her nasty, Botox stretched skin, teeny bopper looking old woman, trying to act all hip and young. It was sad, laughable, and gross. If anyone thinks she's pretty, the way she looked, you need to see a psychiatrist. There is nothing more pathetic than watching a middle-aged woman trying to act trendy and hip. Of course, she's no more nasty and gross than a Madonna, who's still trying to act trendy and hip at her age. My brother calls her Medusa, and he's right about that. She reminds me of the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Dark Side. So nasty and gross. Her skin's all stretched too, and it's just really nasty. Please present yourself as an adult and stop trying to act and talk like a teenager. It is just so gross. It makes me want to barf. Okay, so this is not a session putting down older people because, look, I'm 52 and I'm not young anymore either. But there is no way that I would act, dress, and try to look like a 19-year-old kid, because I'm not. There's nothing more pathetic than an older woman or man trying to be young again. But it just shows right there that they're pushing on television and TV shows and movies. Our society has become so youth-obsessed, but yet we really don't care about young people. And I noticed about this Wendy Williams show is it's not just her pathetic attempt at trying to stay young and hip and relevant, but she was trying to push older people, especially women, to act like teenagers. And as you know, teenagers are not the most responsible people in general. Not saying that there aren't good kids out there, but that is not the message people like Williams are presenting. They want older adults to turn into teenagers and let the government be your daddy. You don't need to take responsibility for yourself and your actions. That's what they're pushing. The daddy's going to take care of you. I've seen other people talk about this as well. And another channel was talking about where there's this geocache game It's a role-playing game that you go in person, and you have to go through you watch it through your phone, but you also go in person. And the advertisement for this game has two adult men on the front, and they look like they're 9-year-old boys the way they're dressed. Even their expressions, they look like a child, which is really strange. I'm not against video games or cell phones or anything modern, but I can tell you, trying to turn back the clock and act like you're a 9-year-old when you're 40 is just beyond bizarre. People just are living in their own little fantasy world, and it's not healthy. It's really not healthy at all. And of course, I realize that this is something that they're pushing. Of course, they're doing it on purpose. If you really think about it, why they're doing this, well, it's kind of obvious. They want everybody to be dependent on the government. So the best way to do that is to try to turn adults into children. And they're doing a pretty good job of it, and a lot of people are falling for this nonsense. People have always wanted to, after you get a certain age, you try to be young again. And there's nothing wrong with trying to look good or taking care of yourself, but it's not possible to turn back the clock. Start acting like an adult. Part of being an adult is to take responsibility for your actions. And see, that the government doesn't really want you to even worry about that, especially women today. They don't want women to worry about anything. And it's kind of obvious that they don't. They want a man, or they want the government to take care of them. And I'm sorry, but this is not biblical, and this is not something that a Christian should allow themselves to be dragged down to. This is ridiculous. And this whole idea, I was first talking about consumerism and immorality. It's all part of it. Consumerism is this youth-oriented. They have this whole idea that if you stay young, you got to buy this, you got to have this, you got to have that. Once you're an adult, you probably already have all the stuff you need anyway. You don't need to continue to consume. It's very wasteful and very childish. Just think about when you're a child, you don't know how to conserve things. Instead of taking care of your stuff, you kind of were abusive to your toys and stuff, right? I know a lot of people were. My brother and I were very abusive to our stuff, and their parents were like, well, I'm not buying, if you tear the stuff up, I'm not buying you anything else. Well, of course, the problem is today, though, is that people have said, oh, that's okay, Johnny, if you want to beat it up, I'll just buy you something new. But that's not the adult thing to do. You need to teach your children responsibility, and when you're an adult, act responsible. Be an adult. Don't expect the government to take care of your every little whim and desire. I've always heard people say that if a government that's powerful enough to give you everything is powerful enough to take it away from you. Now, that's the way I see it. That what they'll do is they'll give you all these freebies, stuff that you want, but then they'll start taking stuff away, which includes your rights. And believe me, they will. If you really think these people in power really care about you and have your best interests at heart, you're delusional. Okay, so not to pick on Wendy Williams, but just to use her as an example, that her show basically is pushing women especially, because that's her demographic. That's the people that she is targeting are women. And I don't know exactly the age, but she's in her 50s and she's trying to act like she's a teenager. But anyway, it seems to me like the people in powers that be are using these TV shows with people like this particular woman, that she's pushing consumerism. And if you just watch a few minutes of it, it's always buying the newest products. and the trendy stuff, and it's usually stuff that's, you know, a pretty good amount of money. And she's always pushing gadgets, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but these shows, they're pushing you to want you to buy more and more and more. That's the whole thing in a nutshell. It's all consumerism. It's all worldly consumerism. And by the way she talks and acts, and there's always gossiping about celebrities and stuff, and all these people are so immoral. That's basically what they're pushing in her show and most of these TV shows. And all these people are living immoral lifestyles. They're having sex with every Tom, Dick, and Harry in town, and they're making that all, trying to make that all trendy. That it's okay to, you know, to not live a godly lifestyle. That it's okay, even as an older person. It's no problem for you to go out and have sex with multiple people. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they're pushing. These people, even some of these people, I don't know anything about Williams, if she's supposedly a Christian or not. I doubt it. But even though the TV shows that I've seen where these people that claim to be Christians are still pushing immorality. It's just amazing to me that people just don't see it, or if they do, they're ignoring it. But if you're a Christian, you know, we believe according to the Bible that you're supposed to have certain standards of living to go by, and these people are pushing stuff that's totally against the Bible. You know, that worldly things are not bad to have, but if that's all you can do is talk about buying this and buying that, your life is not good enough because you need more of this stuff, then you have some major issues, some spiritual issues to deal with. I don't know about you, but I don't need to buy every single product I see on television. These people must have some major mental problems if they constantly feel like they got to buy something to feel better about themselves. I mean, that's really very strange to me. If you really think about what they're doing, is they are pushing idolatry. You know, as Christians, we know that we're supposed to be dependent on the Lord, not on things or other people. But they're putting stuff, anything, an idol is anything you put ahead of God. An idol could be, you know, clothing, could be money, could be your job, could be your spouse, could be anything that you obsess over. That we are supposed to put God and the Bible and everything that we read in the Bible. We're supposed to put the Bible and the Lord ahead of all these other worldly pursuits. Some things are not bad, but everything needs to be put in its proper place. Don't spend all of your time obsessing about worldly stuff. Well, let me give you another good another thing, like for instance, a television set. There's a TV show called American Idol. I mean, that right there, people are obsessed with celebrities. They act like they're God or something. I mean, they copy everything they do. They watch them. They probably know more about the celebrities than they do about the Bible. You know, I've seen people how they obsess over different celebrities. They buy every single album if they're a singer. They know, I mean, even little details about their life. They go on the internet and look up every single thing about that person. And they spend all their time obsessing about these particular people. You know, they are people too. They're not God. I mean, it's just amazing to me that people, you know, that they act like that these people are better than everybody else. No, they're not. They put on pants just like the rest of us do. They go to the dump. They take a dump like the rest of us do. They're people, for goodness sake. So why are they pushing consumerism and immorality? Well, because the people in power are not moral people. And consumerism, it just makes these people richer because these people own all the big businesses, the big corporations. And the more junk you buy, the more money that these rich people collect. So of course it's going to benefit them, and it benefits the government. That means there's more taxes money for them to collect, and it helps fill their pocketbooks. So of course it's good for them, but it's not good for society in general, because when you live in a society where you basically use up stuff and throw it away, it's very wasteful. We are really destroying our environment with all this foolish consumerism. And of course, they don't make products that last in time anyway. They do that on purpose because all they care about is the almighty dollar. My parents have had like a washing machine that's probably over 40 years old, and it works better than these new machines that you buy that would cost more than what they paid for, and they don't last any time. And of course, they do that on purpose. You buy products from overseas, and they really aren't any good to begin with. But it just keeps on. It keeps these people in money, keeps them rich and wealthy, and that's all they're really concerned about. They're not concerned about quality. And then it's like we're just filling the landfills with more and more junk, and it's just destroying our environment. But they don't care. As long as that money comes flowing in, they don't care whether they're destroying the environment. Of course, it all feeds into their... of course, they don't care whether you die anyway. If you really think about it, do any research on Agenda 2030, and part of that is to reduce the population. So if they destroy the environment, so what? They don't really care anyway. I always wondered, why they're, but most of these people are involved in the occult, and they worship Lucifer and the fallen angels, and of course Lucifer hates people anyway. So he doesn't care if all people die. And if you don't believe that, just look up the Georgia Guidestones and read all that. It's in 8 different languages. Anyway, and the point of my video today is that as Christians, we need to get away from consumerism, and we need to stop embracing immoral lifestyles. Because, I've used this verse many, many times, but look up Revelation 21:8. This is Revelation 21:8 from the NIV. But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, they will be consigned to the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death. Now those are very, very strong words. And the reason I've used this verse several different times in different videos, but it's very important to understand as Christians how we are held to a higher standard than other people because we have the truth. Listen to these words again. It says people that live sexual immoral lifestyles. And this is a list of different people who will not go to heaven because of their lifestyle. It says people that are unbelieving. That's, obviously you're not a Christian. Vile, which includes a lot of different things. Murderers, of course. Those who practice magic arts, and that's witchcraft, divination. There's a whole list if you look in the Bible of different types of things. Talking to the spirits is an abomination. That's in the actually part of the Deuteronomy in the from the Old Testament. Idolaters and liars. All of these people, this whole list of people, are those that are going to go to hell. And this is very important for us to understand. You cannot continue to live this type of lifestyle that I mentioned here and go to heaven. And this is the kind of stuff that people are pushing on television for you to live lifestyles like this. And most Christian people don't understand. You cannot live immoral lifestyles and think you can get away with it. And people have this crazy notion, I'll just go and ask for forgiveness and it'll be okay. Well, I'm sorry, but Jesus told the woman who was caught in adultery to go and sin no more. He didn't just pat her on the head and say, "That's okay, honey. I forgive you. To go back and do what you want." He didn't tell her to do that. He told her not to do it anymore. If you're a Christian, all of us are going to sin and fall short of God's glory. But we do not continually live in a lifestyle of depravity and expect the Lord to forgive us and continue to go back and do that. It doesn't work that way. Sure, we'll slip up every once in a while and do something that's wrong, but don't expect to continue to live in a lifestyle like this and think you're going to get away with it, because you're not. I mean, I know Christian people that they think that it's okay for them to... I heard this one lady, I don't know her personally, but a friend of mine did. She was married, but she was having an affair with her I think it was somebody she worked with. Well, she thought that was okay for her to have an illicit affair with some guy, and this woman claimed to be a Christian. Now, you can't be a Christian and live in this kind of lifestyle. I'm sorry, I hate to burst your bubble, but if you really are a Christian, you're not going to heaven. Personally, I don't think she's a Christian, because a Christian would be, if you have the Holy Spirit, you're going to be convicted of sin. But she was not convicted of sin at all. She was sorry if she got caught, probably. A lot of people are that way. They're sorry they got caught. But the Holy Spirit is going to convict you of sin. If there is no conviction of sin, then you don't have the Holy Spirit, and you're probably not a Christian anyway. Okay, well, I'm trying not to get the videos to be too long, but my point of this video is that the consumerism and immorality, all of these things are keeping us from having the relationship that we're supposed to have with the Lord. We're supposed to depend on Him and not the material things that we have. And that's what they're trying to do, is trying to keep us as little children, never growing up, and dependent on the wrong person. We are supposed to be dependent on the Lord. It doesn't mean that, like a little child, that if we're dependent on the Lord, that we don't take responsibility for our actions. No, that's not what I'm saying. Is that we have to depend on the Lord to take care of problems that come up. We don't go to the government and expect the government to take care of our little desires and whims. As an adult, you take care of the situation that you're in. You take care of it yourself. You can't expect them to do it, because they're not really interested in taking care of you. They're interested in their money and their power. Well, the Lord really cares about everybody and everything, but He still expects us to take responsibility for our actions and not be a child. And the Apostle Paul even tells us that when you're a child. Well, let me give you those verses. Okay, so the verse I'm referring to here is from 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. This is what the Lord expects from us. When we become an adult, and I'm speaking of spiritually speaking, once we become a Christian and we start maturing, we're supposed to act like an adult would act. We are to put away these childish emotions, these childish behaviors, and start becoming a responsible adult. And as a Christian, that should be also part of our spiritual life as well, is that we should start being responsible for our own actions and learning, and take responsibility for our behaviors. But of course, that's not exactly what the government wants us to do, and it gives them more power over all of us. And that's just not the way I want to live my life, and I don't think most people want to live their life that way. But anyway, that is what they're pushing on television, and these television programs, these talk shows, all of them are pushing this immorality for a reason. They want you to be completely under the control of the government. Consumerism, immorality, this whole idea of never growing up, keep staying as a child, you're always going to be dependent on the government. And we don't, as an adult, you don't want that. We don't need that. But anyway, I look forward to your comments. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and God bless.